So you mentioned the fine-tuning of the universe. This is the second argument, I believe, in the book.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second. Maybe remind us what it is,
Yeah.
and what's your favorite illustration or example that you think best kind of captures the power of fine-tuning?
Yeah, this is fascinating. Again, this is only discoveries over the last 50 to 80 years. I interviewed for the book Dr. Michael Strauss, PhD from UCLA, professor at a major secular university, works at the Hadron Collider in Switzerland. He's written hundreds of scientific articles that have been published in scientific publications, so he knows what he's talking about. And the modern physics tells us that the numbers that govern the operation of the universe are finely tuned on a razor's edge so that life can exist. It rules out the possibility this could have happened by chance because the numbers are so astronomical that, as Dr. Strauss told me, scientifically they can say ain't gonna happen by chance. So it's like you walk out at night and instead of seeing stars in the sky, you see 50 to 100 giant dials in the sky. And those dials have possible calibrations. They could be calibrated to trillions or trillions and trillions of settings. And yet every one of these dials is perfectly calibrated so that life can exist. That is a picture that we get from modern physics. I'll give you just one dial. The force of gravity. Everybody knows what the force of gravity is. If I drop this pen, it's gonna fall down. Well, the force of gravity happens to be set at the exact right place so that life can exist. How precise is it? Imagine a ruler, a gauge, across the entire known universe. What's it, 15 billion light years wide? And this gauge is broken down in 1-inch increments. That represents the plausible range along which the force of gravity could have been set. And yet it's set at the exact right place so that life can exist. What if we were to change it 1 inch compared to the 15 billion light years width of the universe? Intelligent life would be impossible anywhere in the universe. 1 inch compared to the width of the universe. That's just one of these settings. The other one that Hugh Ross, the astrophysicist with a PhD from the University of Toronto, has made famous is the ratio between the electromagnetic force and the gravitational force. It's finely tuned to 1 part in 10,000 trillion, trillion, trillion. Now, to understand that number, imagine a continent the size of North America piled with dimes that go all the way up to the moon, 238,000 miles of dimes. Now imagine 1 billion continents the size of our continent, North America, with dimes piled up 238,000 miles to the moon. Now pick out one dime, spray paint it red, mix it among all those dimes, and then blindfold someone and say, you can reach in one time and pick out one dime. What are the odds you would pick that red dime? 1 chance in 10,000 trillion, trillion, trillion.
Wow.
So those are just 2 parameters. I mean, it is absolutely mind-blowing. And when you look at the conditions that allow Earth to be suitable for intelligent life, there's about over 300, I think 322 conditions that have to be met in order for a planet like ours to be life-sustaining for intelligent life. And I asked Dr. Strauss, I said, well, golly, yeah, but there's maybe 1 billion trillion planets in our known universe. So certainly there's going to be others that, just by the odds fulfill that. And he said to me, well, let's run the numbers. And you run the numbers and you find the odds against that are so astronomical. He said to me, ain't going to happen. Just ain't going to happen mathematically. So, how do we account for this? And I go through no way to account for this other than fine-tuning requires a fine-tuner.
All right, so here's a question that I've received on this. Is you said earlier with the dials that there's these trillions of possibilities and they're all precisely where they need to be. Yet when it comes to Earth, we have the conditions for life, but most places in the universe are inhospitable to life.
Right.
Most galaxies can't support life. Most planets can't support life.
Right.
So
most
things
suns
are so exquisitely fine-tuned. Why is seemingly so little, if any, of the universe even capable of supporting life?
Oh, yeah. So it's a question that look at the vastness of the universe. Why would we be the only ones? That kind of thing.
Yeah, in a sense, if one thing I'll hear is if the universe is so exquisitely fine-tuned, most of the
Yeah.
universe is not hospitable. You
Oh, I
can't
see.
live in
Okay.
most of the universe.
I
It's
asked
actually
Dr. Strauss about
dangerous.
that. Yeah, it's a great
Okay.
question. I asked Dr. Strauss about that, and his answer was our universe is as small as it possibly can be
Hmm.
and allow us to have life on planet Earth. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Lee, you look at the history of the universe, and it involves stars that were initially formed that created certain elements, and then they went away, and those elements coalesced. There were new stars that formed, and other elements like iron and so forth were formed, so that rocky planets could form, and then new stars took over." And so the universe has been on this progress. It's been expanding for billions, 13 billion years. It's been expanding so that the elements that are needed for creation of life could be there for God to avail himself of and create life out of. And so, if that is true, then our universe is as small as it possibly could be
Hmm.
so that our little habitat can have intelligent life.
Hmm.
Because it's expanding that whole time, it's growing that whole time. And then finally, when we're able to get to the point of human life flourishing in a location such as ours, um, it looks like there's a lot of wasted space out there. Looks like there's a lot
Yeah.
of wasted galaxies. And so, no, they're not wasted. They were necessary in order for us to
Hmm.
create what was necessary for life to exist on our planet. Besides which, if God has unlimited resources, then for him, there's no such thing as wasteful. I mean, he
That's
he
true.
can use as many resources